There's a reason why, despite the passage of time and the silence, that person still lingers in your mind like a whisper that never fades. Perhaps you've tried everything, changing your environment, keeping busy, even convincing yourself you've moved on. Yet, they return in dreams, memories, songs, and words spoken by others. Why does this presence persist? What does it mean to keep thinking about someone who's no longer part of your life? Carl Jung wouldn't dismiss it as mere attachment or emotional dependency. For him, the unconscious mind operates with reasons the conscious mind doesn't fully grasp. When someone remains deeply etched in your inner world, it's not necessarily a sign you should reunite with them or that love still exists. Instead, it signifies something within you remains unseen, unacknowledged, or unhealed, something this person came to reveal. Jung believed our relationships are not random. Everyone who enters our life, especially those leaving an emotional mark, serves a psychic function. They act as mirrors, reflecting what we've yet to recognize within ourselves. That persistent mental presence often has more to do with what they represented than the person themselves. Perhaps they triggered an old wound, embodied an unconscious image from childhood, or catalyzed an internal awakening you've yet to understand. Thus, constantly thinking about someone isn't necessarily unresolved love, but an incomplete inner process. When the mind doesn't fully understand an experience, it repeats it to understand, to heal. As long as the lesson remains unintegrated, it will keep returning. Jung said, "What you don't make conscious will manifest in your life as fate." Instead of fighting these thoughts, choose to listen with deep curiosity. What part of you was activated by that person? What wounds did they touch? What emotions did they force you to confront? If you're constantly thinking about someone, it's not them demanding your attention. It's a part of yourself illuminated through that relationship. Sometimes the mind insists because something within you remains incomplete, and that unfinished work isn't with the other person. It's within you. This is where true inner work begins. It's not about forcefully severing ties or pretending they never existed. It's about facing the emotional truth they left behind. Because as long as you run from it, it will continue to chase you. This isn't about idealizing the past or holding on to something that's gone. It's about recognizing that your unconscious mind is still engaged with that connection. Jung explained that when an emotional experience isn't integrated, it becomes a knot in your psyche, influencing your decisions, future relationships, and self-esteem. So, when you think of that person, you're not just reliving the past out of weakness. You're revisiting something unresolved, needing to be untangled with compassion, not rejection. You're not crazy, broken, or weak for still thinking about someone. You're human, experiencing one of the deepest processes, integrating an emotional experience that changed your life. Don't punish yourself for it. Instead, be grateful your mind is highlighting what still needs your love and attention. We often think love binds us to someone, but it's not always love that keeps us attached. Now, sometimes it's an unresolved emotion, an unconscious need, or a projected image. According to Carl Jung, we love with our entire psyche, which contains fragments of history, repressed desires, unaddressed fears, and symbols guiding us toward lessons we need to learn. If you're still thinking about that person, it might not be love, but a psychic resonance. Something in you responded to something in them, and that response hasn't been fully integrated. Constantly thinking about someone may reveal an activated archetype. Perhaps they represented a savior, an ideal, an emotional refuge, or a shadow disguised as light. Jung explained that the collective unconscious is filled with universal images within us all. These archetypes shape our perceptions, emotions, and experiences in ways we often don't realize. When someone activates one of these images, the impact is so deep that even after they leave, the feeling of something missing remains. This absence isn't necessarily because they're irreplaceable, but because the symbol they embodied hasn't been fully understood or integrated. That persistent thought, the constant mental presence of someone no longer in your life, often isn't about them. It's a search for closure, not with them, but within yourself. Your unconscious is calling you back to when everything changed, not to remain stuck, but to reclaim what you lost when you gave yourself away completely. Perhaps you've given up parts of yourself for love. Maybe you've kept quiet to avoid conflict, altered who you are to fit into their world, or suppressed your desires to keep the peace. Even though that person is no longer in your life, the echoes of that self-abandonment still linger within you. Each time you think of them, it may not be the relationship you're longing for, but rather an attempt to reclaim what you surrendered. It's signaling you to look at where you made an unspoken agreement to stop being fully yourself. It's not that you necessarily want to reignite the relationship. Instead, a part of you wants to return to yourself. According to Jung, this is the essence of spiritual work, to recover what was lost in love's journey, even when love meant losing yourself. Thinking of someone isn't always about nostalgia. Sometimes it resists growth. Growing requires accepting that, regardless of how meaningful that story was, it has served its purpose. Here lies the internal conflict between the conscious and unconscious. Your rational mind knows it's time to move on, but your unconscious seeks understanding. It doesn't want to forget. It wants to integrate and transform the wound into wisdom. For that, you need presence, not more distractions or attempts to silence your thoughts. What's needed is an honest and compassionate look at what truly happened. What did you learn about yourself in that relationship? What parts of you thrived, and which ones faded? Who did you truly love? The person or the image you created of them? These reflections are not casual. They are keys that unlock inner doors closed since it ended. Your soul understands that thinking about this person isn't a mistake. It's a call to awaken. The more you respond to this call without judgment, the closer you come to true closure, the kind that doesn't depend on conversations, reunions, or external validation, but on deep personal acceptance. The story was what it needed to be. Now, the journey is about returning to yourself. When Carl Jung spoke of individuation, he referred to this very process, the journey back to the self. Every intense relationship, every loss, every love that left its mark on your soul is part of this journey, not to define you, but to refine you, as if every person you've loved was a mirror reflecting hidden aspects of yourself yet to be discovered. When you remember that person, you're actually seeing yourself illuminated in a new way. Some connections aren't severed by absence. Some people don't need to be physically present to continue influencing your emotions, thoughts, and even daily choices. That's the true depth of a psychological bond. It's not measured by physical closeness, but by the invisible imprint it leaves within you. According to Jung, this imprint isn't just the residue of love. It's the result of a resonance between your unconscious and the symbolic role that person played in your life. You're not stuck in the past due to weakness. Rather, your soul still has something to communicate through that story, something you might not have heard while emotionally entangled. When deeply immersed in a relationship, especially one that touches the core of your being, maintaining clarity is tough. Intense emotions cloud judgment, and feelings dominate perspective. But when it ends and silence settles in, the real opportunity for understanding arises. Thinking about that person isn't necessarily a regression. It can be the start of profound realization and the emergence of wisdom waiting to unfold within you. Carl Jung believed significant human encounters aren't mere coincidences. They are meetings between souls recognizing each other at a depth beyond conscious perception. This is why, even when you try to move on rationally, something within resists. There's an unresolved message, a lesson encoded in that experience, waiting to be understood. The message isn't in the other person, but within you, in what the relationship awakened, stirred within your being, and how it transformed you. Often, we convince ourselves that understanding the other person, their actions, why they left or hurt us, will bring closure. But closure doesn't depend on what the other person says or does. It depends entirely on what you're willing to see within yourself. Maybe they hurt, betrayed, disappointed, or left you without explanation. But beyond the pain is a lesson your soul needs to integrate. This lesson doesn't come through logic, but through the emotional experience that lingers inside you. What remains isn't the person themselves, but the unresolved emotional experience, an incomplete process, suspended in time, waiting to be acknowledged, felt, and released. More often than not, what we struggle to let go of isn't the person. It's the part of ourselves that emerged in their presence, the version of you that surfaced during that connection, the one you may not have fully understood, or the one you're still unsure deserved love. It's that vulnerable part of yourself, perhaps one you never knew existed, that was overlooked or rejected. Unable to process this rejection, your mind clings to it, replaying, analyzing, and reliving it until you can embrace it with love. You don't need more external answers. What you need is to allow yourself to feel what you've been avoiding. Jung famously said, "What you resist persists." Often, a persistent thought is simply the result of avoiding an emotion. So ask yourself, what did you truly feel during that experience? What fear was so overwhelming that you decided to bury it? What part of you was silenced to maintain that connection? This is the real source of the attachment that still binds you. Liberation is not a straight or immediate path. It's a journey into the depths of your soul. Though it may be painful, that very pain is proof that something within you is awakening. Perhaps what you truly need is not to stop thinking about that person, but to stop judging yourself for doing so. Fighting your own thoughts prevents you from accessing the message they hold. That message is the key to your growth, healing, and transformation. Your unconscious is guiding you toward something greater, not the return of a person, but a return to yourself, where you feel whole without needing external validation. When you finally understand what that person represented and integrate their presence's meaning in your life, You no longer need them physically present to find peace. That is true freedom, when you can remember without pain, when you can release without fear, when you can love without attachment. At some point, you may have tried to replace that person, maybe consciously, seeking someone to fill the void, or unconsciously, comparing every new person to the one who's gone. But no matter what, the feeling lingers, as if nothing quite fits, as if no new story resonates the same way inside you. It's not because this person was irreplaceable, but because the connection was not just human, it was symbolic. It activated a part of you you'd never met before. Now, your journey is to meet that part of yourself, not through another's presence, but through your own self-discovery. That's where healing begins. That's where you reclaim your power. That's where you find the version of yourself that doesn't just survive without them, but thrives. Jung explained that every deep bond in our lives activates an inner dimension, a hidden layer of our psyche that often stays dormant until a profound connection awakens it. When you miss someone, it's not just their presence you long for, but the version of yourself that existed with them. Perhaps you were more vulnerable, open, or emotionally connected. Or maybe, in that relationship, you lost yourself, sacrificing parts of your essence to maintain the illusion of togetherness. In both scenarios, thinking about that person is essentially about reclaiming a part of yourself that needs understanding and acceptance. This insight turns memories into wisdom. Your unconscious mind constantly strives to restore balance within you. It's not your enemy and doesn't wish for your suffering or to keep you stuck in the past. Instead, it uses dreams, recurring thoughts, and unexpected emotions to guide you toward integration. If a person frequently comes to mind, it means there's an unresolved emotional story within you that hasn't been fully processed symbolically, not logically. According to Jung, healing isn't a rational process. It's an inner alchemy, an unconscious transformation that happens when you allow the unknown within you to become conscious. This transformation can't be rushed. It requires stillness, introspection, and the ability to appreciate what you've experienced, not from guilt or longing, but gratitude. Gratitude for what was learned, not lost, because every impactful connection carries a seed of transformation. Even if all you feel now is pain or confusion, within that experience lies a crucial part of your awakening. The goal isn't to erase the memory, but to release its weight. This is possible only by looking inward, recognizing your role in everything you felt, not to blame yourself, but to reclaim your power. The power to understand why you held on so tightly, why you idealized that person, why the loss cut so deeply. Jung believed the unconscious stores experiences not just as memories, but as living symbols shaping our reality. Perhaps this person was unknowingly the catalyst for your transformation, a mirror reflecting parts of yourself ready to emerge. What seems like attachment may simply be a stage in this inner revelation process. You don't need to force this person out of your mind. Instead, understand what they represent. What part of you did they awaken? What unfulfilled promise still echoes in your soul? Only then can you turn the page without feeling something is unfinished. It's not about forgetting, but closing the chapter from the heart. True closure happens when you recognize that real love doesn't always mean permanence. Sometimes love enters our lives to teach us something, and then it departs. When we can't accept this, our soul becomes trapped in endless waiting, leading nowhere. It's not your mind or emotions that are the problem. The real issue arises when you try to forget without fully understanding. This is where Jung encourages us to dive deeper, stop seeking external solutions, and instead engage with the wounded part of ourselves that longs to be acknowledged. Only then will the image of that person stop haunting you, not because you've erased them, but because they have nothing left to teach you. When someone keeps appearing in your mind despite time, distance, and logic, suggesting there's nothing left to hold on to, it's not the person manifesting, it's an unresolved internal process. It's a psychic movement seeking resolution, calling for your attention from deep within. Ignoring it won't make it disappear. Instead, it turns into symptoms, repetitive thoughts, inexplicable emotions, and decisions you can't quite understand. It will persist until you acknowledge, face, and integrate it into your wholeness. According to Carl Jung, the soul has its own intelligence, an ancient wisdom that doesn't follow logic or linear time, but moves through symbols, images, and emotionally charged experiences. If your soul keeps returning to a certain person, it means something significant happened that you need to reclaim, not to go back, but to integrate a part of yourself. That person might have been light or a shadow, comfort or wound, but now what matters is what they awakened in you. Often, we enter relationships from a place of invisible lack, seeking in others what we haven't given ourselves. When a relationship ends, it feels like something has been torn away, but what truly hurts is the exposed emptiness. Jung saw every loss as an opportunity, a chance to view emptiness not as punishment, but as fertile ground for growth. For this to happen, shift focus from the other's absence to what it teaches you. This isn't about filling the void with distractions or heartening yourself. It's about going to the source of the pain with a willingness to understand. When you look at pain with awareness, it no longer controls you. It no longer defines you. It becomes a gateway to something deeper. Jung taught that in times of crisis, the soul has a chance to grow, and this constant urge to think about someone may be your inner crisis, prompting you to grow, urging you to see beyond the surface. Not every feeling signals a need for external action. Sometimes what you feel is an invitation to look inward, exploring your history, emotional needs, and relational patterns. You might be unconsciously repeating a bond from the past, perhaps originating in childhood with figures who left an emotional mark on you. This person who now occupies your thoughts may have triggered that old bond without your awareness, not to confuse you, but to offer a new healing opportunity. When you realize this, something shifts. You no longer see that person as an obsession or an open wound, but as a symbol urging you to confront what you've been avoiding. Maybe it was the need for validation, the fear of not being enough, or the hope someone would complete you. Recognizing this, you reclaim your power. What you once thought only they could provide begins to grow from within. This is deep work. It is uncomfortable, but transformative. It's about understanding what the relationship revealed about you, finding meaning in the memory, and being grateful even for the pain because it highlighted what needed healing. When you do this, your energy changes. You're no longer at war with the past or waiting for thoughts to fade. Instead, you embrace what is yours, the lessons, the growth, and the seed of a new self that emerged from that encounter. Eventually, the person will stop appearing in your mind with the same intensity, not because you've erased or replaced them, but because they no longer hold the same space within you. The memory remains part of your story, but it won't hurt or disturb you, nor will it dictate your emotions. On that day, without even realizing it, you'll have completed a cycle. What truly gets released is not the person, but the energy you unknowingly invested in them, the expectations you placed upon them, and the part of you waiting for answers or a different ending. When all that transforms, what remains is peace, a deep, genuine peace, not the kind you fake to move on, but the kind that comes when you no longer need to understand everything to feel at ease. Jung said there's no awakening of consciousness without pain, and yes, constantly thinking about someone can be a form of pain. But it can also signal that you're on the brink of transformation. Don't shy away from your feelings. Don't punish yourself for remembering. Listen to what your soul is expressing through these thoughts. Behind every emotion, there's a truth waiting to be uncovered, and that truth lies within you. You've undergone a process that many people face, but few truly dare to explore deeply. If you're still with us, it's because something inside you is ready to let go, not through forgetfulness, but through understanding, not through rejection, but through self-love. That's the closure your soul needs. By doing this, you not only heal yourself, but also create a pathway for others to follow. Because your journey has meaning, your pain has purpose, and so does your awakening. If this message resonated with you, if at any point you felt we were speaking directly to your soul, I invite you to join this growing community. This is more than just a content space. It's a space for connection, understanding, and transformation. Every time you share your feelings, leave a comment, or like or share this video, you're contributing to something larger than you realize. You're helping this message reach someone who truly needs it. You're becoming a link in a chain of light, a guiding force that may lead someone to the clarity they've been seeking. There are people out there just like you, experiencing the same emotions and struggles, but they haven't found the words to express themselves. They might still be lost in confusion and doubt. And maybe, just maybe, you're the bridge that will lead them to a moment of realization. Maybe your comment, your engagement, your presence here will be the sign they were waiting for, to know they're not alone. This channel exists to remind you that your emotions matter, that your inner work, the effort you put into understanding, healing, and evolving is not just transforming your life, but inspiring others to transform theirs too. So, if this content has touched something deep within you, sparked a realization, a feeling of connection, or even just a moment of peace, let it be known. Leave a comment. Share your thoughts. Express what this journey means to you, not out of obligation, not because it's expected, but because together we're creating something greater than ourselves. A space where deep knowledge, emotional healing, and authenticity are not just ideas, but realities. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening with an open heart, for daring to look inward, for allowing yourself to feel, to question, and to grow. This is your moment. You're living it with courage, which is truly powerful. See you in the next video.